in search of soil.
Well, observe nature. What plants are coming up? Are you having pioneer weeds, or are you having tall grasses and brambles start to come up? What is nature showing you? And again, I'll refer to my succession thing. If you look at what plants are coming up, you're going to get a general idea of probably where your soils are at in the bacterial to fungal ratio. But I also need to point out again that it's not all about just bacteria and fungi. Bacteria and fungi are going to break those materials down and hold that minerals and nutrients in their body. But if they're just in the soil holding those nutrients and minerals in their bodies, you're not getting that nutrient cycling going. So the plant's not being able to absorb anything if the bacteria and fungi are still just present. It's also a matter of having protozoa and nematodes present that are going to eat those and poop them out and give you those nutrients. So in that sense, it really kind of does take a microscope to know that you've got the predators present. I mean, if you've got healthy plants that aren't susceptible to diseases and pests, then most likely you're doing really good.
You think the presence of pioneer weeds is a reliable enough indicator to give an a good indication of soil conditions? Like I hear this and it's one of those things like it makes sense to me, but part of me questions it and says that is more myth than truth.
From the soils that I've looked at that are weedy, it's absolutely true that there's not really any fungi, and there's really not a lot going on at all in those soils. And as a matter of fact, it because of compaction, if you might have some weedy areas that actually, if you get down to it, and those pioneer weeds might not have that deep of roots, so they're kind of just tapping into the top few inches there. But you might have a compaction layer that's 1 foot deep, 2 foot deep, 3 feet deep, that the roots of your crops would potentially be growing into. And if you've got a compacted area, it is possible that you've got an anaerobic dead zone where, if you've got a compaction layer in the soil, which most people, that's why they've got deep plows, that they're trying to hit that compaction layer. But at that compaction layer, you've got the dead pan where water passes through the soil, it hits that dead pan, and then it just sits there, usually like a puddle. And you and I can't lay face down in a puddle. We're aerobic organisms. We can't lay face down in a puddle. So these dead zones, the biology in there are anaerobic. It shows anaerobic biology. The biology in there shows anaerobic microorganisms. And like I said before, anaerobic microorganisms are usually creating a number of different substances that are going to be detrimental to plants, especially alcohols and phenols. There's other ones that I'm kind of blanking on at the moment. But, if you were to try, people take a cutting of a plant and put it into a jar of water to let it root out. Well, if you were to take, even half a jar of water and add 50% tequila to that and put your plant in there, is your plant going to survive? No. So when these plant roots are growing down and they hit that dead pan, they've been working with aerobic microorganisms. They're shedding off exudates, putting out foods for microorganisms, and growing down deeper. And then they hit this dead pan, but the anaerobic microorganisms have, created all these toxic things that are detrimental to those roots, that it's then not able to grow down, and it may even grow out. I've got a great picture. Elaine uses it in her talks, where there's a tree that's a huge tree that, the canopy on it has got to be like 30 or 40 feet across. And if you were to picture that in the soil, you should have that same root zone, at least like a 10 or 20 foot root zone that's coming down into the soil. But these roots grow down 5 feet deep, and all of a sudden they start shooting sideways because it's hit a compaction layer where it's breeding anaerobic microorganisms, and those roots can't work with the microorganisms, and then it's looking for better soil, better microorganisms to work with. So yeah, you could even have potentially dangerous, potentially detrimental soil that in a compacted area like that.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out some of the great clips and watch the full interviews right here on In Search of Soil.